survive a war, you gotta become war.
Good afternoon to all of you on the East Coast, and good morning to everybody that's living in the past. What's happening, America? And everybody else out there that's patriots around the planet. It's good to see you. Happy, what day is it? Wednesday? Thursday? I don't even know. I lost track. And all I know is I have work tonight. It's got to be Thursday. It's good to see everybody. I think you're in for quite a treat this morning. I see all you guys in the chat already. Brian Cates, what's up, brother? I will get to you here shortly. Brian and I are talking about him coming on for a show. I'm super excited about that. Right now, just so everybody knows, next week I will be off. Oh, YouTube's not working. It's okay. YouTube's not working for some reason. I'll have to upload afterwards. I'm not worried about that. My intention next week, we're going to be getting together with a whole crew of us, one of which is here today. I'll be super excited to introduce him in just a second. But on Monday, I'm not sure exactly what time we're going to be starting because we're all over the country. I'm going to see who's going to see it first. But we are going to be live streaming the eclipse / alien invasion. But don't tell anybody about the alien invasion part. I'm really excited about that. It's going to be fun. So Beer at the Parade is going to be here. We're going to have JF and on Smart Paul and myself, and we are going to live stream. You're going to see different perspectives of the eclipse as we pull up anybody that's posting stuff. We're going to be looking for, any type of anomalies, kids leaving school early and all that stuff. We'll be talking about it, hanging out. It's going to be kind of a free-for-all. It should be one heck of a good time. And then, like I said, I am talking to right now Dr. CIET. He is first on the list only because he is a doctor and he has a schedule during the daytime. So as soon as I get done figuring out the scheduling with him, he will be on, as far as I know so far, if we can figure it out, next week. And then a bunch of other really cool patriots like Brian Cates and some others who's in the chat right now. I see you. Cody Pont, what's up, buddy? Lori, I love you, Mama. It's good to see you. But anyway, I'm glad everybody's here. I don't want to intro too long, but I just wanted to get everybody a couple minutes to get in here. I am Joe Rambo. Welcome to Rambo and Frens, and here's today's friend. What's going on, Beer at the Parade? How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. It's I don't have the chat running, so I can focus on you. But it sounds like a good chunk of my Friday Zoom room is hanging out with us today. So.
Yeah, are you kidding me? It's one of the best things that's ever happened to me is your Zoom room.
Yeah, it's kind of become its own thing, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I love that everybody's supporting me and building this new platform, the Rambo and Frens platform. So I owe you a big thank you.
Pringles, I'm going to go ahead and remove this from the back. Pringles, if you'd like to sponsor the view from my parade, I'm amenable to the conversation. Just hit me up. So.
Well, not me. I want to know who funds them first.
Hey, today is going to be an interesting one for me.
Okay.
I'm going to take something that changed my business career, a skill that I learned on adapting to observable behaviors during a conversation, and apply that because I've written books and taught a lot of salespeople this skill of making it comfortable for other people to make decisions around us. And as I went through this great awakening, and I've seen so many relationships become fractured because the normies don't understand the anons yet. And the normies are starting to wake up, and we need to get better at helping them awaken in a way to where we don't fracture the relationship and create a lot of interpersonal tension that doesn't need to be present during this process. And that's what I want to try to get across today. And it's a very interesting concept that Dr. Tony Alessandra taught me called the Platinum Rule. And the Platinum Rule is a more sensitive modern version of the Golden Rule. Do you remember the Golden Rule, Joe?
I know the phrase. Do I remember
do
what?
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Okay.
Or treat people the way that you would wish to be treated, right? And that works beautifully in most aspects of our lives.
Love thy neighbor.
Exactly. And it works perfectly when it comes to morals and values and ethics and just being kind towards other people. And what I've learned, though, is that in sales and in leadership, there's a more sensitive, outwardly focused concept called the platinum rule, which is to do unto others as they would have you do unto them, or treat people the way they want to be treated. And as I've been observing this great awakening and watching so many relationships become fractured, I decided I want to start teaching Anons a different, do unto others first and then run. And so what I wanted to teach is a more outwardly focused of to treat others the way they want to be treated. So I'm going to walk you through a series of slides to teach us how to do that. But before I go into the platinum rule, underneath that is a base layer of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And if people just mastered one simple thing, red pilling will be much simpler and much more effective, which is to take an active interest in what the other person's interested in. Okay. So just because you're all jazzed up on Building 7 or 9/11 or the open borders or the fake Biden regime, whatever you're interested in, they may not be interested in that.
Alien invasions, bro.
Yeah, there you go. See how many times you sneak that one in today.
I'm stuck on it.
I know. Well, for a good reason. There might be a there. And if so, Monday's going to be a very interesting day. That would be Monday, April the 8th, for those of you seeing this taped. So what I want to talk about today is once we've taken an active interest in what the other person's interested in. So in my case, I had a difficult relationship because I brought up 9/11 and this other person had a visceral reaction to that topic. And I'm going to quit looking at my screen so I can focus. And later on, years later, I never brought up 9/11 ever again, but I brought up child trafficking. And this person was interested to see Sound of Freedom. They watched the Caviezel Ballard interviews. It was like the whole world changed. And then I could speak with this person about child trafficking. And now we had a connection. And so I was speaking about their topic, not my topic. And from then, all the other conversations got easier and easier and easier. Because
can I sidetrack you without throwing you off?
You can never throw me off. I've been teaching this for 20 years.
Okay, good. Because I want to sidetrack you for a second because I think that's an important topic. I've noticed recently with the child trafficking stuff, it seems that all of the groups. Okay, so we know that the movement's been infiltrated, right, by people trying to divide. That's kind of like it's kind of like common knowledge at this point. It seems that there's an even more focused group that gets probably even more so of infiltration and trying to destroy. And that is that child trafficking angle. It seems that you want to support all of these groups right away because they come off as groups that are trying to save children. And then because of the emotional tie, it seems to be easy for those people that are here to infiltrate, discredit, and divide to gain trust and a bunch of followers and a bunch of support, and then discredit the whole thing. I've noticed it. It's like almost tenfold when it comes to not just the movement, but the child trafficking specifically. Have you seen the same thing?
That would be the one Achilles heel the deep state would go after because it's the one thing they know is going to unite humanity will be the children.
Yeah.
And protecting and saving the children breaks down all barriers. It doesn't matter if you're left or right, white or black, rich or poor. It doesn't matter. It will always unite us about the children.
Well, I think it makes sense. The comment I made, I thought while you were just saying that, but a lot of the key, I don't know how to even describe them. Like, let's just say Amber Alert.
Mm-hmm.
People have dug into Amber Alert and found out that the money supplying Amber Alert are the same people that are trafficking children, right? So it's just one big example of what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, this child trafficking thing, it's truly they're using humans and children as currency around the planet. And I think that Diddy, I can't quite figure out if this is something that's happening in real time or if we're being finally public declassed about something that already happened, similar to Epstein, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But it sure is making people talk, and I love that part. I don't know.
Well, the timing of why I wanted to bring this up with you today is because I believe people are going to start waking up at a freakishly exponential pace. It's kind of like the flood of the drip, drip flood. And I don't know if it's the coming days, weeks, or months, or maybe even the next few years, but it's coming. And I think that what I want to teach today is going to be so important for the OG Anons to not push. Don't try to accelerate what's coming, because the golden rule says, I want all my family and friends and loved ones to also be as awakened as I am. And we tend to project that onto people because our heart's in the right place, but it's the wrong thing to do. We mean well, but we're trying to, instead of a nice, gentle awakening to a slow sunrise, we want to become the alarm clock and snap people out of their coma to a wide awake experience, which is not realistic and it's not good for the other person. I've been going through my process since about 6 years after 9/11. And it took me 6 years to wake up to that atrocity and who really did it. And that was 6 years. And then, I went through 3 months of trauma because my operating system got thrown off its tracks. I lost my operating system when I realized all my values and beliefs were built on lies. And it took several months to rebuild an operating system. And that was just on 9/11 alone. Imagine what these people are waking up to now. It's way bigger than just one catastrophic event. So that's why I can't wait to jump into. So why don't you go ahead and share a screen if that's okay? I want to go into teaching people a little bit about what I'm interested in. And if you guys want to screen grab my calendar, have at it. I'm sorry about that. But anyways, so what I'm going to teach you guys is based on a book I wrote with Tony. And this book we wrote, I don't know, 15 years ago. It has stayed in the top 50 sales books of all time, because it's that important to learn this skill of adaptability. So when I'm in a conversation with another person, it's like I'm looking at them through these lens of only two observable behaviors: their speed at which they tend to talk and their temperature. What is it they want to talk about? Do they want to talk about facts and data? Or they want to talk about feelings and relationships. So it's like when I'm looking at somebody, it's like they've got a dashboard on their forehead, and I'm just monitoring speed and temperature, speed and temperature. So I'm going to go into that. But when you get good at observing these two dimensions, it will become obvious when and how they want to start making a decision about something. Okay. And in this case, the decision isn't to wake up. The decision will be, do you want to begin waking up? And if the answer is no, then we just back off and we go back and talk about sports or the weather or something of that nature. So how do we recognize these two dimensions? So some people, if you look at temperature, some people are really warm and we call them open. And so it's easy to know what they're thinking or feeling because you can see it in their face. They'll talk about it. They'll share whatever's on the inside tends to come out. Conversely, some people are guarded. They're more poker faced, more stoic. They want to talk about facts and data and real events, tangible things. They don't really want to talk about soft, squishy stuff. They want to talk about reality, and they don't share as much. So you almost have to ask them direct questions, and they're going to give you very short answers. Open people will talk till the cows come home about things that you may or may not even have asked about. Okay. So to summarize this temperature thing, it's pretty easy. The open people are their natural touchers and huggers. They'll sit next to you. They'll ask about your family. They'll share their opinions about religion and politics, about anything. They're just easy to read, easy to get to know. And then some people are more guarded, hard to read. You can't tell what they're thinking. They don't say a whole lot. Now, it doesn't mean one's better than the other. It's just an observable behavior, right? So when I'm in a conversation with someone who's open, I just let them go. And then I'll just redirect them a little bit, and they'll start talking themselves into what I was hoping that they would talk themselves into. Whereas with somebody as guarded, I tend to just lay the breadcrumbs, and then I'll pause and say, what do you think about that? And I'll usually get a one-word answer, even though it's an open-ended question. But I just want to know what's going on the inside, because they're not telling me and they're not showing me. One's not better than the other. It's just left-handed, right-handed. It's just an observable behavior. Now, notice I'm not talking about the 4 personality types, because it's very dangerous to put someone in a quadrant and leave them there. But Dr. Alessandra taught me that people will change in the middle of a conversation. So you might touch upon something that's maybe sensitive, and they'll go from being very open to very guarded. And that tells me they don't want to talk about that. They just shut it right down. And I'm like, okay, time to move the topic back to something that's more comfortable, but I don't want to poke the bear when somebody shuts me down a little bit. Or maybe I'll just get out of the conversation. Does that make sense? If you're watching how they're coming across, you can always adapt to what you're seeing. So again, the open people are relationship focused, and they'll talk for an hour on what could have been a 5-minute conversation. Whereas guarded people, on the other hand, they're very focused on the time. So if you promise a 10-minute conversation and you're done in 6, they like you. Whereas the other people, if you think it's a 10-minute conversation and it's 45 minutes, they don't care, and they're usually the reason why. Now, I flip-flop constantly between open and guarded depending on the topic and or who I'm talking to or the situation. But I'm almost always, when we get to the speed coming up here in a second, you'll see that I am a fast-paced guy. But let me ask you a question, Joe. In most situations, with most people, would they look at you and say to another person, Joe's one of the most open people I've ever met, or man, Joe's kind of a guarded guy. I can't wait to learn more about him. How do you think people talk about you? Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted.
Yeah. I was muted because what you're talking about brought up a clip that I just posted, and I really want to show it because I think it's hysterical. But my honest assessment, I would like to think, I know my intentions are not that I'm guarded. I'd like to think that I'm very open-minded. I'm very accepting of other people's thought processes.
Well, this isn't about how you're open-minded. This is about how you come across to other people in a conversation.
I think it depends a lot on my atmosphere, and that's why I want to show this quick. I hope I don't sidebar you.
No,
but
have at it.
Is this what you're talking about?
They're recently become Republicans now, so.
It's hard. It's literally hard to vote for a Democrat. They're literally pushing transgenderism. They're literally putting pedophiles in 3rd grade classes. And then when you speak out against it, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about allowing pedophiles to groom children. And when you speak out against that, you're a fucking bigot. That's what your site says on national TV. For one, don't say that. So guess what? When you vote for a Democrat now, you're a fucking pedophile. That's what I see now. You are voting for pedophile peddlers.
What's going on there? Don't vote for pedophiles, Mom. It's not right. Mom, you shouldn't vote for pedophiles.
Left gets to say Republicans are racist. I get to call you a pedophile. That's just what it is now.
Don't call Mom a pedophile.
When she votes for him, that makes you one of them.
She's Republican.
She's Republican. You have told me multiple times.
No, I don't. She's Republican. Everybody knows that Democrats are pedophiles.
You either don't want to talk about it, or you say Democrats are for the poor. No,
everybody knows that Democrats are
pedophiles. Look at every
Democrat has a
for them to gather more power. It's always more government needs control. We need more power. We need more power.
It's facts.
That's not successful red pilling.
That was a red pill suppository done with a sledgehammer. But and is the guy right? Yes, he is, but he could have approached that a little bit differently. maybe by asking questions instead of making blanket sweeping statements. But that was an example of a newly awakened Anon so excited about trying to wake up everyone around him. He meant well, but holy crap.
Well, the difference there is, I'll tell you, because I've assessed this, I've thought about it. The difference there is you're talking to your mom or your brother, right, or somebody that you've gone through major emotional growth, yes, trauma, whatever through. So this is not like a coworker. Like he's not, right. I would guess that he's probably not going to be yelling about his coworkers voting for pedophiles the same way that he would his mother. I think that's why
stop screen sharing for a second, because I want to get a point across without them looking at a grid. What we're talking about today, this art of adaptability, almost never works with the people closest to us because we naturally fall into old roles and habits. Okay. Yep. So, for example, when I tried to red pill some people very close to me, then I realized I was too close to them and they weren't going to listen to me about that. I got a phone call 2 years later and they said, look, this isn't a conversation. This is a monologue. So I don't want you to say anything but listen. And this person said, over the last 2 years, me and my spouse have both discovered, together and individually, that almost all of our friends agree with you and your wife about 9/11, but I don't want to have the conversation. And then I realized it was other people farther from them that they would listen to, but not the people closest to them. So for those of you who are trying to, quote, awaken or red pill people really close to you with a long history, you might want to back off that. What's going to be playing out in the news and in the world over the next months or years is going to do it for us. So what I want to accomplish today is how to have the conversations so that as they start their awakening process, that's why I built magazine.us, to give them a place to go to red pill themselves. So we're not the accelerator. I just want to get them into the maze in the process of finding topics they're interested in waking up to. Let them watch these interviews by themselves. Let them read Substacks by themselves. Because as they start wakening up, they're going to pull back subconsciously and stop because their mind doesn't want to take in the reality that their whole life has been based on lies. Okay. Which now you can share a screen because I'm going to segue into the speed at which people tend to make decisions, take in information, process new things, is that some people, and they're telling you in the conversation on how they come across. So if somebody is indirect, that means they're very quiet and cooperative, almost introverted. They have a slower pace about everything. They'll take in information at the same pace, but they'll digest it bit by bit over time. So the quieter someone is during the conversation, and the mistakes that Anons make is that when they're starting to talk about something that's red pilly, and if the other person gets real quiet and they start nodding their heads and just going along with what you're saying, a well-meaning Anon could think they're getting through. Oh, they're kind of agreeing with me. They're not interrupting me. So I'm just going to keep going. No. Drop your breadcrumb and back off and go talk about something else. So just because someone is quiet and cooperative doesn't mean they're buying everything you're selling. They're just not interrupting you. Now, some people, though, are more direct than indirect, like I am. I talk fast, I walk fast, I eat fast, I make quick decisions. Everything about me has a faster pace than most people, as you can tell by how I'm speaking right now. Direct people use hand gestures when they're talking, and they tend to make very direct sort of statements, which is really not a good way to come across to somebody as they're waking up. So as a direct person like me, I've had to learn to slow down. Be a little bit more monotone, put milestones, quiet places in the conversation so they're thinking, or if there's something they wanted to say, I make it easy for them to ask a question. Or I might even ask a mile marker question. What do you think about what we've talked about so far? The whole purpose of red pilling is to get them to do most of the talking. And I'm going to be getting to that here in 1 second. And I also learned that I can't click my slides on your monitor. I have to click them on my monitor.
Correct.
Yours sucks. Mine works like a champ.
Mine's sharing. That's what the world sees.
Okay. Now, one thing on this slide is go right to the bottom. Indirect people, the quiet cooperative ones, they don't like risk and change. Okay. So you think you're going to red pill somebody who doesn't want things to change? Because the whole purpose of red pilling is their whole world is about to change. Their whole childhood, how they framed their childhood and their careers is about to change when they realize their entire life and value system, belief system was built upon lies. That's what they're waking up to. Whereas direct people will kind of jump into the maze and start flailing about, and I'll get there in a second, because they don't mind risk. They don't mind taking on new things. So again, it's that natural talker and extrovert and somebody who just takes control of things. And when people start interrupting you during this conversation, that's when you know that they're interested in entering the maze. That doesn't mean they're going to make decisions. That doesn't mean you're going to red pill them. Don't. The whole purpose of this conversation will be to get them to enter the maze of their own awakening. And I'll get to that here in a second. So in what I normally teach in high-end professional selling is the 4 quadrants when you put together the 2 dimensions. So if someone is both open, warm, and friendly, easy to read, get to know, and they're direct, they're in a socializing mode. So these are the natural salespeople, the talkers, the explainers, the gift of gab, the power of persuasion. They're in that mode where they want to teach or get you to buy something. Now, if somebody's also direct, confident, assertive, fast-paced, but they're very guarded, they're in their directing mode. They're directors or high Ds if you study DISC. These people are the leaders. They want to get things accomplished. They're goal-directed. They just want action, and then they want results. Now, if somebody's guarded like the director, but they're indirect, more quiet and cooperative, that's an analytical thinker. They're in their thinking mode. They want the facts and the data, but they need time and space to digest because they're going to double check and triple check because they're going to need to be right or to not be wrong. And my wife flip-flops between that and the next one, which is the upper left. So she's almost always indirect, but she flip-flops between guarded and open. So guarded, she's in her thinking mode, but open, when she's around somebody that she's comfortable with, she's in her relating mode. A relator is both open and indirect. So these are the most loyal, kind, warm people you'll ever be around, and they're driven by relationships and loyalty. They don't have many friendships, but the ones they have last a lifetime, and they go really deep. For what we're going to accomplish today, we don't need all 4. We just need to know that when in doubt, slow down, and when in doubt, stop talking. Let these people wake up at their own pace. So here are some things. If you guys screen grab anything, screen grab this when it comes to red pilling. Right here. Use the Socratic method of asking questions. Even though you know what you want to tell them, if you can get them to say it, they'll own it. If you say it, they will unconsciously push back, even if you're right. That's called cognitive dissonance. We could do a whole show just on that, but the short version of cognitive dissonance is that your subconscious mind exists for one thing. It wants to survive everything, including us. And so once it's built its operating system of things that it thinks works, it hangs on to that at the cost of everything else. So when it's introduced with something that messes with that operating system, it will get you to change the subject. You don't even realize you're doing it, or it will get you to agree with it, knowing it's going to throw it in the trash as soon as that conversation's over. But if you get them to say that, what you wanted to tell them, and it comes out of their mouth, they own it. And now their mind is willing to accept their own thought. Does that make sense, Joe?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let them do the talking. There's an old saying, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. It's the ratio. So ask the question and get them to do the talking. Ask drill down questions, follow-up questions. When it comes to red pilling, they're not going to make any decisions. Okay? They're not going to. You don't want them to. All you want them to do is to get them to say, now I'm kind of interested in this topic. And then that's when you play dumb and you go, wow, I hadn't thought about that. I'm going to go do some research. This is interesting to me. Even if you know it like the back of your hand, don't tell them you know that particular topic. You want to do the research together, okay, even separately, and reconvene maybe in a week or two.
I want to throw a curveball at you, Scott.
Good luck.
So it's something I think that we don't necessarily think about nearly as much. But I know when I was newly awakened, let's say that, right? When I broke free from the matrix, I broke free from addiction, and I started down this path of starting to dig and research and try to find the truth. I liken it to a pendulum where I swung from one side where I lived in this matrix really far to the other side. And I was talking about things that I don't necessarily buy into anymore. Like, some of the med bed hopium, or, I struggle with some of the Nassar Jassara stuff, right? I'm just giving some examples.
Yes.
How does all of this apply when you meet someone that has swung really far, in my opinion, due to some infiltration and some hopium, some clickbait type stuff? Do you handle those types of people with the same tactics and techniques?
Yes, because I can't talk them out of how they're seeing that topic at that point in time, right? But what I can do is ask them enough questions and get them talking enough. At some point in time, whatever comes out of their mouth, they're going to go, wait, I hadn't thought about that before. Maybe that isn't exactly right. And I'm like, really? Tell me more about that. And I'll get them, I call it walking the dog around the block. I know your dog is going to pee on fire hydrant number 4. That's where I need your dog to pee today. If I tell you take your dog to fire hydrant number 4, it's not going to pee because it needs to go sniff 20 other places. And then it might decide it's going to pee on number 4. I've got to walk your story around the block enough and get you telling me your story enough to where eventually you go, that doesn't even sound right anymore, does it? And I go, I was trying to keep up with you, but let's talk about that a little more. I'm going to get them to talk themselves out of their own preposition. I can't do it for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's say that it's Gassara Nassara or whatever. Let's say JFK Jr. is going to be alive. I don't know. Do I know everything about Gassara Nassara? No. And that's why I don't want to be an expert. Experts don't sell anything. Matter of fact, experts ruin relationships. It's all I'm doing is I'm creating a third thing that's no longer between me and you. Okay. You and I will tend to get into an argument. But if you bring up Gassara Nassara, you bring up something I don't necessarily agree with, I would say to you, I've heard a lot of people talking about this, Joe, and now I'm curious about it. Tell me what you know about that. Now you're going to be the expert, right? So as you start telling me in my mind, I'm going wrong. Oh, way wrong. Well, wrong. But then I go, well, maybe he might be right. Do I truly know with facts and sauce about that topic? If the answer is no, I can take Gassara Nassara and put it off to the side and go, Joe, I want to go study this. And you clearly are studying it too. Can we separate for a week? I want to go learn about this. Can we get together in a week or so and compare notes?
Can I give you a life experience with it?
Sure, absolutely.
So this is why I asked the question. I have a pile of coworkers that kind of went through this process with me, right? So when the job, the just over broke, was pushing the vaccine on everybody, I was probably the most boisterous, right? I kind of led the charge in go after yourself. You're not stabbing me with that thing. I have watched Stu Peters, right? I have done my research. I know all the doctors that are telling me why it's bad. And I did all my research and I wrote an email and I kind of headed off that whole campaign to like tell them no, right? And 90% of the workforce didn't, even though they threatened us with firing. Well, because of that, I am now lumped in with people that have certainly not sat through your lecture. They have certainly not tactfully gone about figuring out how to deal with personality types and the way people act in red pilling. They have screamed from the top of their lungs that our government is full of lizards that eat babies, right? So, so I have had to curtail the way that I talk because some of the things I believe are absolutely true lump me right into that category the same way it did when I spearheaded the we're not getting vaccinated crew.
Right.
So now the workforce that sees the psyop playing out before us instantly, and they believe it, instantly lumps me in with the everyone's lizards that eats babies.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've come to this crossroads where I'm watching it play out, and I mean, they all know I'm a Trumper or whatever they call me,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't necessarily, like, it's really kind of destroyed
Stop
the
screen sharing, please, because I want to see your face as you're sharing your story.
Sorry, I get stuck talking.
That's okay.
It's really gotten me to this place where I don't know. I don't know if I'm able to have constructive conversations with these people anymore, because some have swung so far on that pendulum, and I truly believe I'm a little bit right, but I'm closer to reality in my opinion. I know that, I mean, in free thought process, who's right?
You accidentally built a personal brand in their mind. Joe is a blank.
Yes.
Okay. And now you're going to be stuck in that for quite some time until they see a marked difference in your behavior. So it's going to be very hard to build a new bridge with people who already perceive you as being pushy and opinionated and wanting to be right in every conversation. And that's how my family had always viewed me, because that's how I was before I learned this art of adaptability. And I went radio silent for 5 years around my family so I could start rebuilding that personal brand of now being approachable and more quiet and a better listener and more interested in what they're thinking about. So look, we can't undo what's been done. It's very difficult to rebrand something because we tend to fill a position in people's minds. It works with products, services, and with relationships. But with people we're going to meet moving forward, a great opening question would come across like this. I don't know about you, but lately it seems like the world has just gone crazy. I mean, crazy. Are you noticing similar things? Now, notice I didn't point them in any direction. I want to know what their version of crazy looks like, because they'll find something. Okay. So I'll just ask, and I'll just say, this place is going crazy. Now, I might not say the United States or our government or even the world or politicians or Biden. I just said things just are going crazy and it seems to be speeding up. Are you starting to sense something similar? And then I'm going to let them steer the conversation. And if they go, what are you talking about? I'm like, so everything's good with your career and inflation's not hitting you and you're as good as you were 5 years ago. Is that where you are today? And they might be some of those people, they haven't been impacted and they're still watching the news at night and having a beer and going to bed. And if so, that's a very short conversation. And I'll just change the subject to something else. But those people are few and far between now. And anybody I ask that question to, we go down a rabbit hole in a hurry. They just had never had anybody to talk to.
Well, so, I found a really good instance at work because I used that example here recently, because the cost of living's up 17%. It's, first of all, an interesting coincidence, but they only gave everybody about 3 or 3.5% raises, right? Cost of living, or my work calls it performance-based. So if everybody gets a 3% raise and cost of living went up 17%, you really lost 14% of your money. Yep. You are now 14% more broke. So I've personally, that's what I've been using to re-engage in the conversation on a more intellectual level with guys that are sitting in the break room.
And the guarded people love facts and data. They'll go research that. But the open people, you could share stories about because they like stories and anecdotes and things like that. And then you can share a story about how when you're shopping now, you're making decisions you never made before. Do I go with the turkey breast that I want, or do I go with a steak, or do I go with a pork steak that's 1/3 the price? And so people can relate to that. And so the open people want to share stories. The guarded people, you can lay that little breadcrumb of inflation and say, go do your own research on the numbers. And then I'm curious to know how that's going to impact you. and then let them go do the research. But that's only if they picked inflation as the topic. So go ahead and share screen. I'm going to show you why this is important. So on my next slide, this is an overview of magazine, SCENE, and it's in my, you can see under my name. In a conversation, they're going to pick something that can tie into these general categories that we created. So in your case, you know, it could be as simple as the corrupt government is controlling inflation. Okay. So I would just say to them, you know what? I'm researching this too. I found this tool called magazine.us. I'll send you a link. Click on corrupt government and start doing your research. Okay. And the reason I built it like this is I knew that once the mouse gets in the maze, looking for that cheese in the middle of their own awakening, I knew that these topics would naturally cross over. So just so, because someone is interested in inflation, let's say, while they're researching the corrupt government, they may wander into something about, let's say, big pharma and the cost of the vaccines and the money grab of, you know, Fauci and Gates having the patents on the vaccines before they even released the COVID. So now they could red pill themselves on a whole other category without you being there, shoving them through the maze at your pace, because that's not what they want to do. I just want them in the maze so we can have a conversation later. And this is what, you know, the website looks like. So here's all the categories. And the whole trick to this, here, I'll make it a little bigger, is for them, when you bring something up and you say, it's crazy out there, what are you noticing? And they might bring up something, you know, it's going to fit in one of these categories. And that's when you can take your foot off the gas, play dumb, let them be the expert and say, what do you know about that? And then they might tell you what they know about it, agree with them and say, it sounds like you're way ahead of that than I am. Can you give me a week or two to study up on that? I'm interested in that too. Well, now you've created a bond. And you've created that third thing where you're sitting together, metaphorically at the desk, looking at inflation together. So now it's not a point of contention anymore. It's a project the two of you can solve together, to go learn things together. And you can stop sharing screen for the rest of this.
Well, let me sidebar you quick. So yeah. Valerie asked what the website was. It's Magazine, SCENE. Gloria said
.us, not .com.
.us, magazine.us. Gloria talked about Nassar Jassara being real. I'm not disputing that. I will, however, dispute some of the ways that it's been presented. So there are some legal aspects to Nassar Jassara, or however anyone pronounces it. I've seen the proof. I believe that there are some levels of legality to it. However, the way it's been presented to this movement, in my opinion, has been a little bit stretched, to say the least. So that's all I was getting at. I'm not here to hurt anybody's feelings or disrespect anyone's research. By all means, if you're looking into it and you find legitimacy to it, talk about it with your friends and family. Sorry.
Now, if anybody wants to drop any questions in the chat about anything specific or a relationship they're struggling with or anything like that, I'll be happy to answer some questions. I'm looking at the time. If you want to keep this to an hour or less, we can. If you want to keep going, I'm perfectly fine talking about this. But the main points I wanted to get across, if anybody takes anything away from this, you will always damage the relationship if you push. If you're trying to accelerate anything, it's going to cause a lot of interpersonal tension. And if they're guarded, they won't show it and you won't know it. So you might be really irritating someone because you're pushing. When I give speeches and workshops on this, I always open up with one thing. And I tell people, close your eyes. And those of you listening, close your eyes and play along with me. I want you to picture someone in your life who's the nicest person in the world. Everybody likes this person. But yet when you see them coming into your room or you see the phone ring, you know that conversation for you is going to be like nails on a chalkboard. For whatever reason, the way they talk just doesn't sit well with you, but everybody else loves that person, right? Well, if you don't learn the art of adaptability, you are that person for other people. They're just too nice to tell you. And so by nature, as you can tell, I tend to think and speak pretty quickly. And so I didn't know I was doing it. I was just buzzing past people in our conversations, and they didn't enjoy it. And when I learned to slow down and calm myself down a little bit and ask more than I tell and ask questions and get them to share their view of the world or that topic with me, my friendship started immediately improving overnight. When I made it about their interests, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, their interests, their goals, their life. Now my phone rings all the time because people want to talk to me because they know I'm going to listen, and I'm not going to try to fix everything like I used to. We're just going to start a process together. That's all. I don't say anything about it, but people sense that about me, that I'm not going to fix you today, but I want to see what you're seeing. I want to feel what you're feeling, and I want to know what you know, so I know where you are in this metaphorical maze, and I can just gently nudge you in the right direction, let you wander, let you learn, and then we'll talk again later.
I think I've mentioned this to you before, but it's a very close model to what I've been taught in AA with the attraction rather than promotion. Right. So in AA, the red pilling aspect is the fact that God, in a very high percentage, is what's giving credit for the success of breaking addiction or alcoholism. However, to tell someone that comes right off the street that God will save you is a very difficult red pill to hand out, because these people believe that they were either left alone. They were, some of them believe they were harmed by God. They believe that they were abandoned. They don't believe that God could possibly exist due to some of the things they went through. So to grab somebody that's going through addiction, which I parallel very much to breaking free from the indoctrination process and everything that we're going through, to get someone that's newly awakened in that way and shove it down their throat is typically detrimental, the same way that it is in this movement. So it takes a process where you walk in the steps of God.
Yes.
And become attractive in the way that you carry yourself, thankful to his guidance, that then when these people shake the fog off just enough that they want to know how you did it, right? They want to, they see it as attractive. So they then ask you, instead of you shoving it down their throats, you've now walked in an attractive way to where they approach you and want to know how it is that you're carrying yourself that way, because what you have done is let them know that you came from the same place, right? So that's why people stand up there and they speak for an hour and they give their experience. And a lot of time it's not necessarily full of hope. 75% of it could be war stories. Well, that's for a reason. That is so that the people that are coming in the door, the newcomer, which is the most important person, sees you as relatable, and then sees you walk around with a clean shirt, looking clean, haircut, potentially a loyal partner on your arm, a job that pays the bills, not owing and having stress and all those things that came with living in the street or the system that we're talking about. So I think that it relates in an unbelievable way. It's crazy to me how much it parallels, to be honest. It's almost biblical.
Well, you have to understand, and it's a perfect metaphor because it's spot on, because the addiction people are hanging on to is the life that they used to have and loved. And it was really, I got a decent job and I get to go home, crack a cold beer and watch sports and relax for a few hours and watch the evening news and go to sleep. And they want that back. Some people are hanging on to that and they don't know why, because they don't know what they don't know is scary, because we're built that way. What we don't know is frightful. What we do know, our subconscious mind loves. Whatever we used to do works. We're still living. Remember, the subconscious mind only exists to live, even in spite of us. So once it builds, it's in our formative years, it builds certain things. It goes, this works for me. We're going to hang on to that at all costs. That's what we're up against. And so, and I like it. Attraction, not promotion. Well said. 3 words. I'm stealing that one. Perfectly said. And so here's another metaphor for I want you guys to think about. For all of you Q-tards out there like me, and I got in on day 5. So November 2nd of 17. So I was able to grow right along with these Q drops over 5 years. Imagine if you had never heard of Q, and I sent you to qag.news and I said, read 4,900 of these and call me tomorrow.
I did it, so I get.
And by the way, you're going to have to learn decoding. You're going to have to learn all the acronyms. You're going to have to learn the Socratic method. You're going to have to read them from the bottom to the top. After you read them from the top to the bottom, you also have to understand they're communicating to 5 different audiences at the same time. But let me know when you get caught up. That's bad red pilling. DC Lidstone, good to see you, brother. What is great red pilling is I just stumbled across this website and it's so confusing. I don't know where to begin. It's this thing called Q, and I don't know what to make of it. It's fascinating as hell, but I'm totally lost. Can you help me? And if they say, what is Q? Say, I know it's new to me too. Can I send you a link to this website? Will you take a look at it? In that case, I wouldn't send them to my site. I'd send them to the QAG thing, knowing they're going to get confused as hell, but curious. And then I'd say, you know, when I was researching, I found this thing called magazine.us, and there's a whole section, and these people are talking about Q in a way I understood it. Would you go have a look at that? And then can we talk about that? So that's why I wanted Q for Dummies on my site, so that when people are a little bit lost, I can give them a place to get started. So bad red pilling is trying to explain Q in a 20-minute conversation. Great red pilling is, I found something, but I'm confused. You're smart. Can you help me? People will always want to rescue the people they love. Never forget that. Let your loved ones rescue you.
So I found so I don't know if you considered this in your book and your teaching, but people learn differently too.
Sure.
So take their personality type aside. Kim tells me all the time, so I use the word all the time, but I'm a very visual learner. That's why a lot of my posts have videos.
Audio, visual, kinesthetic.
That's the way I will remember a video for years. And if I read the same comment, I wouldn't remember it nearly.
Now you know why we have a combination of podcasts, shows, and Substacks.
Well, and that's why I post the way I do. And I think it's why a lot of people are attracted to the way I post. A lot of people pick on me too, right? I get both sides. But it's because I like to use that visual and audio and then write something on top of it. And I typically like to use what you and the other OGs that laid the groundwork before me have taught me through the boards in Socratic method. I typically like to be very, just ask questions and help you, make you think. I think social media is great for red pilling because if you don't want to hear it, you just swipe right past it. And you know what? Some of the people are only catching 10 seconds. And if they catch 10 seconds and then they see something in the news, they might come back. Wait a second. I saw somebody talking about this. I think it's a brilliant way. I love social media for that. And if you can tailor it in that way where it will catch someone's attention without telling them they're stupid, right? Just promoting a free thought process. I think that it's a great way to that same thing we were just talking about, attraction rather than promotion. That's why I use it that way. I would rather post and attract people to the conversation than go to work and tell them lizards eat babies. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that you're gaining you're a bigger ripple by doing it that way, to be honest.
You will always attract more friends and better relationships by, like you said, becoming the light that attracts the moths. And it really, I went through my whole life because I was bullied on a lot as a kid of always wanting to be a quicker thinker, a quicker speaker, and to be right on everything. So I was that little smart ass know-it-all. I remember in my early 20s, my mom sat me down and said, and then I was already out of the military, so I wasn't exactly a kid, but she said, kid, you've gone through your whole life with this little chip on your shoulder, this asterisk. And everybody would always say, Scott's a good guy, but. And she said, oh, that flag ain't going anywhere. That flag is part of it. For those of you who don't know, you want to know how big this flag is? Look at this.
Tell the story, bro. Not everybody's heard it. Tell the story. Everybody that has heard it will still appreciate it another time. Tell the story.
You want me to tell that story now?
Yeah, sure. Everybody loves that story.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I'll close with the story on the flag because I just want to make sure that, that the topic is covered thoroughly. But as I've learned as I've gotten older, that nobody wants to be around a know-it-all. Nobody likes that. And so once I made the shift from knowing my stuff and making sure that you knew that I knew my stuff, and I made the shift to, that's interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Even though I knew what was going to come out of their mouth, or even if they got it wrong, I wasn't going to argue with them. I would, when somebody says something that I know is factually wrong, you know what I respond with? That's interesting. Tell me more about that. How did you get there? That's fascinating to me. How did you wind up at that decision? Take me down that path with you. This is an interesting topic. I can't wait to learn more. Getting them to tell that story, and somewhere around doing so, they may stop and go, well, this isn't really making sense to me right now. Let me think about this and get back to you. And I'm like, oh, that's fine. I'm going to go research it as well. You've got me interested in this now. I already did the research, but I'm not going to tell them that. I learned in providing my services as a well-paid marketing consultant for other companies. I could be in a 2-hour meeting and I used to walk over to the whiteboard and lay out their marketing plan, and I was right. But nobody ever wrote me a check for that, and they didn't follow what was on the whiteboard. They couldn't figure out how I knew that fast. So they didn't trust my thought process. And then I learned to take all the notes, repeat back to them what they had said. And I go, let me go think on this for a couple of weeks. I'll get back to you. And then I would reflect back to them everything they said. You said this might fix that. Oh, and then you said this. What if we were to try this or this? What do you think? And I would go back and forth in our conversation, letting them know I heard you and I thought this through. Now I want to know what you think. So I would put my ideas together with what they said and then say, let's build this together. And everybody started writing me checks because they thought it took me 2 weeks to come up with these great ideas, and I have conceptual bandwidth because the ideas just come in like that, and it's a gift and a curse. Well, my gift became my biggest curse in getting people to buy into my ideas because I couldn't show them how I got there. But once I started walking them slowly through the steps to arrive at a decision or a possibility, everything changed. Then when I saw this mess of the Great Awakening, and I'm seeing so many marriages and I'm seeing so many families no longer speaking with each other, I said, I've got to start teaching this, and I've got to start helping people avoid those train wrecks. And this is why I'm so passionate about what we're talking about today. If I get nothing else across today, it's one thing. Stop pushing. Red pilling is not an event. It's not a conversation. It is a long process that's going to take as long as it takes, and it's different for everybody you're going to meet. Some people it happens rather quickly, and some people it will take years. If you truly care about that person, you'll stop pushing.
Well, and that kind of encapsulates the thought, the idea, or what we were told rather, that it had to be this way. Look, can I ask you a personal question? How much different are you today than you were, say, 3 months into the drops hitting?
Oh, night and day.
Night and day, right?
And I made the mistake of doing exactly what I'm teaching you people not to do. And I already knew the art of adaptability, and I couldn't stop myself because I was so excited about this great awakening and that the good guys might be winning. And then, I screwed up so badly. But now I'm able to teach it because I'm the one who screwed up. I mean, I'd give anything to be the way I am now 6 years ago. If I could go back and reset back in November of 17 and do this differently, I would have approached everybody around me and said, I'm finding the weirdest stuff on the internet. I got a background in military intelligence, but even I can't make sense of this. This is cleverly written. It's Socratic. It seems to be encrypted. Can you help me with this? Everything would have changed.
Yeah, that's for sure. I don't want to cut off if you're still going on your presentation. I want to see if you're ready I want to see what your answer is to this, because I think I have an answer too. There's one of these comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
How come nobody was ever prosecuted in the Crossfire Hurricane operation? What would your answer be? Oh, thank you, Corinthian 1313, for the $17 Rumble rant. How blessed are we to be alive during these days, these very days? Here's a mind blow. God put you here during these very days. I absolutely agree. Thank you very much for the support. It means the world to me.
Joe, how would you? I can't believe how good you are at hosting and producing these conversations.
Look, from day one, I was good at calling the FBI and telling them I loved them. Thank you. I got to tell the truth. Stormy taught me how to do this. I'm absolutely grateful for every single second that we spent doing this. And I'm still not anywhere near where I want to be. I'd love to learn how to do videos and some more and all that stuff. But this is like, I'm like self-teaching, right? There's no college involved here. I'm just like stumbling through. I'm having a blast doing it. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, I'll give an answer to the Crossfire Hurricane. And this is only my opinion of what I have been studying for the last 6.5 years. Personally, I took Q at their word when they said this was over before it began. And my reasoning for that would be, in military operations, if you have any ongoing operations or live operators out in the field, you think you're going to start posting dumb shit on the internet and compromise and possibly lose an operation, possibly lose a person who's an active operator in whatever it is you're doing, and stop and consider the myriad of operations that must have been happening at the same time to disband the deep state. And remember, Q spanked us early on, and they said, if you Anons think that we're going to start publicly arresting people before all their comms are cut, their finances are cut, their chain of command is severed, if you think that we're going to start perp walking people, you don't deserve to be in this conversation. And then I started thinking about, okay, if I could agree that they started going public, and then Trump started making statements, like in front of Marine One, in front of the press, where he said it like 2 years into his term in the past tense. He said, I got all of them. I drained the whole swamp. Nobody could have done that but me. And he said it in the past tense. That would have been around 2018, 2019. And I'm saying, okay, Q said this was over before it began. You are watching a very well scripted movie. We couldn't tell the people. We had to show the people, right? So then when they stole the 2020 election, we kind of went into shock. We were thinking landslide. And then as time elapsed, we all started looking back going, this is really smart. Trump's on the sidelines. Who got elected? The most unelectable people on the planet. And then this ties back to them stealing the midterms in 2018 when Q predicted 53-47 a month before the midterms. And then afterwards, they said Senate was the key. And I had said to my wife, oh my God, they let them steal the midterms. Watch what happens in the House. And the Senate's going to kill everything. But watch the House go batshit crazy in front of the world. And then I said to Mrs. Beer, I go, watch who gets put in front of these committees, the people who do not want to be in the spotlight. And we got Schiff, Schumer, Nadler, Pelosi, and Waters. And they all got put in front of the one committee that they have no business leading. So Waters in charge of finance, who's paying her daughter $800,000 a year to stuff envelopes. Schiff, the biggest leaker on the planet, in charge of the Intel committee. I mean, it just got so exaggerated. That's when I knew the movie was not for us. This movie is to wake up the sleepers, and it takes a long time. So I'm really comfortable with where we are today. Do I think it's about to accelerate? Yes, I do. Do I think Trump for the first time is going to go on offense instead of playing rope-a-dope like he's done for 8 years? Yeah, I do. Is it going to happen on the pace I wanted? Hell no. Nothing has happened at the pace that I've wanted. I'm agreeing with the brilliance of it taking as long as it takes. The end result was to win the court of public opinion, and it's happening. Because I can tell you right now, by the time this thing hits November and they keep accelerating the release of this garbage and corruption, even the biggest Trump hater on the planet is going to say, well, I'll take Trump. I don't like how he tweets, but at least he gets stuff done. And that's why if you watch Trump's speeches lately, he's now coming out with it and he's saying, we're getting them all right now, and it's going to make it easier to do what we needed to do. That means he's going to come back and he's going to start fixing things, but he won't get civil unrest and he's not going to get a civil war. That was the purpose of the exercise.
I can't even say anything with. I'm not going to disagree with a single point you just made. I think what you said was brilliant. So
it's just how I'm looking at this. That's all. It's just my opinion.
I personally agree with everything. I mean, I would have. How did Donald Trump in 2017 come out and say this is the calm before the storm? What was that? Wasn't that right before the drop started hitting beer?
If you want to know how well he was groomed for this, anybody can hop on YouTube and put Trump Las Vegas keynote 2011 and watch him give a keynote address in 2011 when he was hinting at running in 2012. And he's addressing this group of realtors. And all of a sudden, in the middle of a keynote, he shifts gears and he goes, what's with this trade imbalance with China? He goes, I don't understand this. If I were president, this would be so easy to solve. He goes, if I were president, I would put, I don't know, a 25% tax on their imports. 2011. In 2018, 7 years later, he put exactly a 25% tax on China's imports, and the trade imbalance went away.
And there's like hundreds of those examples. And
his tweets from 2011 and 2012 were insane.
Did you ever see? Hold on, let me say thank you. Johnny Q just gifted a $20 Rumble rant. This family God put together is amazing. God wins 100%, bro. Johnny Q and I saw TikTok Terry in here, both from That Thing of Ours. Check out their podcast. I think they go on at 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't kill me if I'm wrong, but it's DTOO over on Rumble. You can catch them on Twitter and everything else too. Have you ever seen the Trump card episodes?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. I don't think my cruel mind. Hold on. So I want to play this clip and then I'm going to show you something. You still hang out for a little while, right?
Oh yeah, I'm good up until the next hour. All
right, let's have fun. Let's have fun. So this is an old classic, in my opinion. Patriot Arts Farm. That's who I played. I outroed 2 episodes so far since we've been on this.
About when would he have said this roughly? Is this recent or?
This is a compilation.
Okay.
It's him. I honestly don't believe. I don't think Joe knows where the hell he is. You want to know? I don't think it's him.
Welcome to the world, Joe. You having a good time, Joe? Are you having a good time?
Now, I have to tell you, he's a different guy. He looks different than he used to. He acts different than he used to. He's even slower than he used to be. I call him 1% Joe. Joe Biden is a dummy.
It's not him. He's a puppet. He is a puppet. He's a puppet. He's a beauty, I'll tell you. Joe doesn't know he's alive, okay?
I told the voter, I want you to look in my eyes when he's not wearing the mask, because I've never seen a man that liked a mask. But did you ever see a man that likes a mask as much as him? Wear a mask like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
And so we do support making sure that committed couples in the same-sex marriage are guaranteed the same constitutional benefits as it relates to their property rights, the rights of visitation, the rights of insurance, the rights of...
Think Hugo Chavez or anyone else from the world thinks that Barack Obama is shaking hands with a man who's invited.
Look, I don't. This is going to be my answer to that question earlier. You can take Crossfire Hurricane, and you can also lump in a whole bunch of other things, right? Hillary Clinton getting taken into the van, Durham, for sure, Durham. You can take all these investigations that we think that we've gotten no results out of publicly. And I say publicly with air quotes on purpose. Donald Trump told us that they're the ones that are really under investigation. So I think that sometimes people come to the misrepresentation that this is only a great awakening process. I don't believe that for a second. I believe that the wheels of justice are turning behind the scenes. I believe that there's a global operation going on. I think that Diddy, Ukraine, and Russia, I believe that many of the things that we're seeing are just glimmers of what's happening truly behind the scenes. If anyone believes that we're at war, as I do, then of course we wouldn't see it all going on the surface. If Donald Trump just told you the truth, if the drops that align so perfectly with Donald Trump just telling you what I'm insinuating might be the truth, then you would understand that what we're looking at is an operation, a psyop. I've likened it, Scott, to General Patton having his ghost army, and all of a sudden the ghost army gets all this recognition. Well, it looks to me like Donald Trump has his ghost 46, his ghost Biden administration. Something's going on.
Yes.
I can't tell you exactly how they're doing it. Reference your favorite influencers research, right? That you got the evolution theories, you got other people that surf the mainstream narrative more. You have, commander-in-chief theories and all these theories. I don't know which one's right. All I know is Donald Trump seems to the things that are happening and were being shown now align perfectly if you go back and look at Trump's words and the drops. That's all I know. So something in my eyes is happening. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it.
Okay, I've got a couple thoughts. One, I want to go back to and give that Anon an answer on Crossfire Hurricane. FISA works both ways. Okay, so let's give thought to the possibility. Am I locked up?
No, you're good.
Okay, so let's look at the possibility that Trump's first 8 years was only to accomplish one thing: catch them in new crimes and record all of it so it's irrefutable. Okay. So let's talk about Crossfire Hurricane. And let's say FISA warrants were taken out on Strzok and Page and Orr and McCabe and maybe even Comey. That means that if any one of them were flipped, which would be easy to do if you've got the evidence on them and they don't want to go to Gitmo and die, it would be so easy to get one of them to bring a device into the 7th floor and record the conversations they were all having on 187, the president of the United States. They weren't probably just talking about, let's frame him for Russian collusion. They needed him out at all costs. So do you want to go ahead and arrest those people based on what you think they're doing? Or do you want to not only be able to legally spy on them, but remember the jump to on a FISA warrant? That means if you've got a warrant out on me, you can go to relationships. So everybody I've ever talked to, you can spy on them. And by extension, everybody they know, you can spy on them. Now, it was used against Trump by Comey and McCabe to illegally spy on him and his family. But what if Trump was already knowing that the game was afoot and he was going to win before he came in? The one thing I'll get you guys to look at Trump differently. I'm 61 years old. He's the only president in my lifetime that has not appreciably aged during his term of office. He's the only one. Every other president has gone gray, gotten wrinkles. They've appreciably, if they did a 4-year term, it looks like they're 10 years older. If they do an 8-year term, they look 15 years older.
Biden's earlobes attached.
Trump has never looked worried. He's never looked nervous. He looks like he's having a genuinely good time. So this thing was probably over before he ever came down that escalator. And I also have the opinion, and I would like for somebody to talk me off this ledge, I think Obama was flipped. And I think his whole second term when Trump was going to run in 2012, because look at a lot of Obama's EOs in that. They're still in place, and they're not in his favor.
I love that you just said that. Do you know how much I've posted on this?
Uh-uh.
Obama if we're in a state of 5th generation warfare, right, Beer, we can agree on that, right?
Yep.
So that would mean that the messaging is intentional by the good guys, potentially. So why in the hell would Barack Obama be on camera saying, if I could have a 3rd term,
Right.
I would sit in my basement with an earpiece and I would tell the guy with a mask on what to say? They're literally leading you down a path.
I think they're making all these sound bites. If we're watching a movie, okay, and I talk about this a lot. One of my favorite movies was called Memento. It's a movie that really plays backwards. And you can, and I think that we are going to watch as a part of the Great Awakening. I'll use a movie as a reference, and they're going to piece together all these little sound bites and snippets and things that we all kind of remember, but they're going to piece them in such a way that it's irrefutable what happened, how they did it, and why it took decades, not years, but decades. And if you read Prussiagate, centuries for the good guys to finally get the upper hand over the bad guys. Remember, the bad guys had 1,000 years to build their network and their playbook. We're watching it disassemble in a very short period of time. So if we start thinking long game, which is what they've always done, then we'll get over our own impatience and we'll be grateful that they had one shot at this. And it takes as long as it takes. Personally, I think we're in the end game. And I thought we were in the end game as soon as Q started dropping. Because again, they would have never said a word unless it was done. So that's why I'm so comfortable in my own skin. And that really became an event for me when Q doxed me. And I'm thinking, of all the people to dox, you pick this guy, the biggest patriot on the planet. And after, a day of the shock setting in and wearing off, I looked at my wife. I go, oh my God, we're safe. If they doxed me, we're safe. And Q had no concern about somebody showing up and taking me out of the gene pool.
Can we address this? I showed you this pre-show. This was posted last night at I want to say it was 11 o'clock at night on Eastern time.
I know this puts my hopium on steroids.
It's so good. It's so good. I want to at least show you this, and then
then we'll talk about the flag. But let's talk about this because this is pretty cool. And
so
now, who posted this?
Dan Scavino posted this on.
And for those of you that are kind of new to the Awakening, there is no doubt in my mind Dan Scavino is on the Q team. Remember that one time where one of the Anons said another 0 Delta, and Q said 3 seconds. Dan is to blame. Remember when Trump would be tweeting right when Q would drop and they would hit the exact same second? That's when Q said Dan is to blame. And for those of you who don't know Dan Scavino's relationship with Donald Trump, Dan Scavino, when he was a teenager, was Trump's caddy on the golf course. Did you know that, Joe?
I did, yeah.
So here's this 15, 16-year-old kid, and Trump looks at him and says, this guy's unusually bright. What a future he's going to have. And then later on, he becomes, Trump's right-hand guy. And so we know Scavino is a genius, number one. He's got all the inside dirt. And then did you notice when Q went radio silent, who started getting a little loud on the internet? Dan Scavino. And he was keeping the breadcrumbs going for the Anons, knowing we were going to go batshit crazy without breadcrumbs. So Scavino posts this. Now it carries extra weight. Now you can rip it. We got a background on Dan Scavino.
All right. So Dan Scavino, he's Trump's shadow. Let's just say that. He's with
Dan Scavino. I know this is going to get to you, so I want you to hear this from me. I'm begging for the first interview. When you're allowed to talk, would you please come on View from my parade? Can I have dibs? I call dibs. I call shotgun in the Scavino car. I'm calling it right now in front of the world.
You're not allowed to do that on my show. I call dibs. All right. Look, if Dan Scavino sees this, thank you, sir. I appreciate
thank you very much for everything you've been doing.
Not enough people. Everybody loves Trump. I think that within our tight group or whatever, everyone recognizes Scavino, but I don't think that he gets the credit he deserves. He deserves a lot of credit.
Well, and we may never know who the Q team was. And for me, I don't care. But whoever they are wicked smart. and they're saving the entire planet. They're not just saving our republic, they're saving the planet. And that was one of my favorite Q. Whoever the Q people are, you never find witty people who aren't super smart. And I'll never forget this. Somebody, back on the breads and on 4chan, 8chan, and 8kun, there's 751 drops per thread, and then they would start a new one. They called them a bread. And I remember somebody posted something like right at the bottom of one of the breads, and Q mentioned it on the next bread, and somebody said, Q, that's in the notables, old bread. And Q said, they said, pay closer attention. Q said, busy saving humanity.
That's brilliant. See, I love those little stories. All right. Well, without further ado, Dan Scavino himself posted this on Instagram and Facebook, which is also interesting because they're the platforms we're not sure if they're in control of yet or not. So here you go. You got to listen right from the gate. I'll just tell you because the first thing's hard to hear. I may play it twice, but he said,
but tell them the first sentence.
He says, try a tweet to Abraham Lincoln.
Try a tweet.
My fellow America.
That Solo energy, give me that. Let me go get a Diet Coke. You want anything?
A sarsaparilla.
The hell is that?
What the hell is that? But try a tweet.
Before I show what Dan was referencing, for those of you that might not know, I'm going to play it one more time, and then I'll show you what he's referencing. So pay.
Try a tweet.
My fellow America.
That Solo energy, give me that. Let me go get a Diet Coke. You want anything?
A sarsaparilla.
The hell is that?
All right. So, in case you are unaware, Dan Scavino just straight up referenced Drop 55. 5x5. This is a legendary post. Everyone on the planet that knows anything about drops is praying every day that this will hit Twitter.
Yep. Now, where did Scavino post that?
He posted it on his Instagram and he posted it on his face. Oh, this he didn't.
No, that's a Q drop. I know what that. I was just saying, where did Scavino post that?
Posted it on
video. Okay.
Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. So so the Anons were tap dancing naked in the streets when Trump got his Twitter account back.
Yes.
Because we were hoping, instead of just posting his mugshot, we've been waiting for, my fellow Americans, the storm is upon us, because we believe that's when the offense starts. That's kind of our go sign. And for Scavino to tie that sentence to Twitter directly, here, try a tweet. And why did it have to come out of Lincoln's mouth?
Right.
Because what was Lincoln able to do in a time of civil war? He was able to do things that a president will never be able to do, except Trump, by declaring we are in a state of war. That means Trump was able to do things in his term that will surface later, and everybody's going to be, their noodle's going to be baked when you see what he really quietly got done that's playing out today and will play out tomorrow. But for me today to see that, it gives me goosebumps. It's comms. That's the clearest comms we've gotten in a long time.
All right. Well, I hope everyone bears with me because I have to show this to Beer, right? So I did a whole episode on this, Beer. So I went back through all of the Trump card. Did you know there was even a game show called Trump Card?
Yeah, but it was like back in the 80s or something, and it was a flash in the pan and gone, right?
It was not a flash in the pan. It was comms, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't have like a 5-year run or something.
It was 1990.
Okay.
So here's I'm just going to show you two. I did a whole show. I mean, it gets really weird when you go into it. It starts talking about the one guy's last name is Kenyon. It's literally referencing. You wouldn't believe the amount of comms within these episodes.
Wow.
But I'm just going to show you the intro. Most of the people that have followed my account have seen this, but just for you, since you haven't seen it, I really want to show you this. So first of all, let me make this big.
That's what she said.
So in this first one, you'll notice
Trump Card, starring Gerard Arsenault. This program was originally recorded December 10th, 1990.
hold on. I want you to tell me if you pick up. Oh, first of all, it's the 17th. That's interesting, but that's just small potatoes. This is just the intro beer. I want you to tell me if you can pick up on it, and I'll show you a screenshot of what it is I'm talking about afterwards. Mute myself.
90 by David Arsenault via satellite.
From the spectacular Trump Castle in world-famous Atlantic City, it's time to play television's non-stop game of knowledge, Trump Card. And now, here's the star of Trump Card, Jimmy Cephalo.
Thank you for joining us for Trump Card, everyone. We're here at the fabulous Trump Castle in Atlantic City, New Jersey, where competition is king. And we have 3 contestants who are ready to challenge each other today for over $15,000 in cash and a chance to win $100,000 in the Trump Card Championship.
All right, so you didn't see it. Hold on. This is going to blow your mind when you see it. Stand by. I could go to the screenshot, but I'm doing it this way. I don't know where. Oh,
there's 45.
Castle 45.
Wow.
In the intro to Trump Card in 1990.
By the way, you remember the red castle, green castle?
Of course I do. Yes.
That was my decode. I was the one who found.
Oh, that's why I wanted to show you this.
I was
Castle 45 in 1990. And it doesn't stop here, Beer. We could spend 3 hours going through. The amount of decodes in this show is absurd.
Yeah, I believe Donald Trump was groomed his entire life for what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
I just nothing else adds up. And I also can't wait to see the future of Barron Trump. I hope I'm around to see that, but it's going to be spectacular. I mean, that's a kid who was raised right in the middle of all of this, and he's going to be amazing someday. That's just my speculation, my postulation.
How's he 9 feet tall? Dude's a giant. Is he a Nephilim?
I don't know. I got to tell you, I only know about 0.1% of what I want to know, because what I don't know about this could fill many libraries, and I'll be the first to admit that.
All right. Well, let's start wrapping this up. I want to hear, if you don't mind, would you tell the flag story again?
I will, and I'm probably going to cry.
Do it.
And I'll try to give you a truncated version. Otherwise, it's an hour by itself.
Okay.
2 years ago, I was asked to speak at Threadfest down in Nashville, Tennessee by Patel Patriot and Patrick Gunnels, John Harold and Patrick Gunnels. And so I had a whole speech ready to go on red pilling based on personality type that we just covered, because it's something I could do in my sleep. It's something I've been teaching for 20 years. And the night before, I was going to speak on Sunday morning, and Saturday night, I couldn't go to sleep. And I sat bolt upright at 1:15 in the morning, and God talked to me for 5 hours straight. Talked with me. This has never happened in my life. It freaked me the hell out. And it was a conversation, but in my mind, God was speaking to me in my voice. It was like I was talking back and forth with myself. And Saturday during the day, I was watching all the other speakers. And when I watch other speakers, I pay careful attention.
Hey, Beer, I'm going to interrupt you only just to tell you that I'm not leaving. I can hear you. I just need 20 seconds to let this dog in. I can hear you the whole time.
Oh, that's fine. And I've never heard a let this dog in as a euphemism for taking a leak, but go ahead. I'll keep going. So yeah, if you want, you can make me full screen, and then they can really see me cry, and they'll get a good laugh out of that. So on Saturdays, I'm watching other people speak. I'm listening to inflections, pauses, body language, hand gesturing, and I steal from them to make me a better speaker. But the whole day on Saturday, this voice kept saying, look at the flag, look at the flag. This flag, as you can see, is in two pieces of canvas. Well, it had been sitting behind the other speakers on 3 bar stools, and because it wasn't clamped together, it had a cleavage in the middle like that. So it was more of a V than it is like this. And all day, this voice gets louder and louder in my head. Look at the flag. And I'm like, I'm looking at the flag. It's right behind the speaker. Shut up. I want to listen. And the voice would not go away. Look at the flag. Look at the flag. Look at the flag. So when I was speaking with God, God said, did you look at the flag? I said, yes, all day long. You were relentless. And God said, so you looked at the flag, but you didn't see the flag. I go, what are you talking about? I didn't see the flag. I was staring at it all day. And they said, go ahead, Scott, calm your mind, clear your mind. What do you see? And I said, well, now I see a sailboat on some calm lake or pond or ocean, but I see a sailboat. And they said, good, now you're distracted enough. Now see the flag. And all I could see was a big heart, not a flag, but a heart. And it was broken in two, a broken heart. And I realized that that severed flag, that broken flag, symbolized my heart. And God said, now you see it. Good. Because we have a gift for you today, and you'll know it as soon as you see it. I'm like, okay. And then God kept saying, God didn't refer to himself as he, God referred to him as we. And he would always say, he said things like, we miss you. You used to talk to us all the time. You don't talk to us much anymore. We want you back. They said, your soul is too important to us. We will never, ever let your soul go to the other side. And today is your day, Scott. Today is your day. And they said, whatever speech you thought you were going to give, you can just leave that in this room. You're going to give our talk today. And I go, what I'll say? And they go, you're not going to say anything. What you're going to do is you're going to go get your most humble, crappiest clothes that you brought, and you're going to wear those up on that stage. And then we're going to take over. All we need you is to be empty and to be humble and get out of the way. So I didn't eat anything. Everybody kept asking me, aren't you going to eat? And I go, nope, nope, nope. Then I got bumped to after lunch, so I didn't eat lunch either. And so I walked on the stage wearing a workout t-shirt, jeans, and flip-flops, a pair of sandals. And as soon as I walked into the room that morning at 9 o'clock, that flag had been made whole. Somebody healed that flag. I started crying. And I realized my heart was going to be made whole that day because I had been separated from my whole family for years. And but God gave this talk about that flag, and it symbolizes our broken relationships and our broken hearts. And I asked the crowd, I go, what's different from that flag? And everybody goes, it's whole. And I go, yes, it's whole. And I took a chair and spun it around and sat down with my back to the audience and gave a speech to that flag for an hour. And I said, look at this one side over here. That's my family. And they all had Christmas without me and my wife, because we're the only ones who didn't get vaxxed and won't get tested. But look at this side over here. This is the only side with the stars. That's me and my military service. They don't get me because they don't get me, and they don't get my military service, and they don't get Q, and they don't get the Great Awakening. But today, we're going to be made whole again. And then whatever came out of me, I don't remember any of it, but I do know this. I had my best friend of 46 years on a phone listening to this speech. And that night he said, I have watched you give public speech after public speech, and I've watched videos of you speaking. That didn't sound anything like you. Your speech was different. Your pace was different. Your accentuations were completely different. And I said, dude, I wasn't there. I don't remember a single thing that came out of my mouth. Well, there wasn't a dry eye in the place when I told people about my heart finally being put back together and the gift that God promised me of being made whole again. And I didn't know that thing was for sale, and that the artist was there in the crowd. And so later that day, when we were all done, we're all sitting at this table and everybody had ordered pizzas for dinner. We were waiting for them to be delivered. I hadn't eaten breakfast. I hadn't eaten lunch. And say I was hungry for dinner would be an understatement. So everybody was ordering pizza from different places. Well, mine showed up first. So I said, hey, pass this around. I think everybody's hungry. And I said, everybody get a slice of this until yours shows up. So it comes back to me and the box is empty. And I set it aside and I didn't think a thing about it. Some guy sitting across from me, who's become a dear friend, he goes, dude, you didn't eat breakfast. And I noticed you pushed your lunch away. Aren't you hungry? And I go, yeah. He goes, why did you just feed everybody else? I go, I don't know. He goes, that's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But then I wasn't hungry. God took that away from me because I was doing his work that day, and it was a Sunday. And unbeknownst to me, all afternoon, that guy and another guy named Mike had taken it upon themselves to very quietly go do a fundraiser, and everybody was giving cash to buy that flag, and I didn't know. So that evening, they were going to do a live reading for Devolution. And so we were all going to go back into the big conference room at 8 o'clock. And as we're all walking in, a guy named David grabbed me and Patty and said, hey, we want to interview you out in the hallway about your experience at Threadfest. I'm like, sure, I'll give a testimonial. Well, what I didn't know was they were setting up the room so that when I walked back in, John's standing there with that flag in front of him and his head peeking over. And I looked up and I go, did somebody buy the flag? And everybody goes, yeah. And I said, well, I hope whoever gets it loved it as much as I do. And John said, we thought you'd say that. We bought it for you. So for the rest of my life, that thing will be behind me and give me a reason to tell stories about God's love and forgiveness for us, and that he will never forsake us.
Oh man, I was doing so good.
He'll never let our soul go to the other side, not in a million years. And we'll never be alone, ever. Other than that, it's just a flag.
I made it so far, Beer. You got me at the end, buddy.
So now I have a reason to tell stories. And you know what? That speech is on the internet. It's on Rumble somewhere. Brian, maybe Brian in the chat, if you could post a link or something. If you guys want to hear me leave a room and God give a talk, watch that talk. I haven't watched it since. I'm afraid to. But I wasn't there. So anyways, that's the story of the flag. And what were the odds that I would have 12-foot high office ceilings in my own office in my own house? That thing goes right from the wall right to the door perfectly. It was supposed to be there. It found a home.
It's definitely beautiful, and so is your story, bro. I love the meaning behind it. I've heard that story before, and you still get me. Well, what an awesome way to start to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Let me do so. I don't typically do this because for me, where I come from, prayer meditation's pretty private for me. It's so for anyone that wonders why I don't typically do it on the show, that's why. But Beer, it was requested, and I wouldn't oppose if you wanted to. I don't want to do it yet. I got to say thank you to a few things first. But if you would get prepared, if you wouldn't mind saying a prayer today, it would mean a lot to people.
I don't ever have to get prepared to say a prayer because I don't know what's going to come out of me. I just get out of the way.
Well, we got right into conversation, and I realized here a little bit ago that I never said thank you to the people supporting the show, which is how I'm hoping to pay for the show, as it's not a free venture or whatever. But Mike jumped right on with us from the gate when I separated from the last platform I was doing. So I highly hope that everybody supports him and uses the promo code Rambo, because it again supports the show as I'm trying to get this thing off the ground and hopefully do it more often and get more friends in front of you guys and more amazing conversations. So if you do buy my pillow, Mike supports everybody in this movement. So you have a large choice of promo codes, but mine is that Rambo. So, and then the coffee that we did last time. Oh, Beer, did you see the reviews?
No.
So I don't know if you're aware, but that day we gave away to 2 people.
Yes.
And one person declined, which, it's okay. I understand that. Excuse me. But I don't know if it was an address thing or they just wanted to give it to someone else. So I sent Patrick of Kekistan.
Oh, I love that name.
I sent him one of each of our bags because there was only one, ended up being one winner that wanted to accept that day. So rather than not sending one, I sent him both. So he got a bag of yours and a bag of mine. And he said they both got a 10. He loved it.
Can you tell these people what this is, please? So they have some context.
Yes. So covfefe.coffee. I already put the link. There's a $5 Rumble rant. God is good. I agree. Thank you for the support. So covfefe.coffee is a project that 8-Track and Pepe Deluxe are the founders of, I believe, right? If you look right here, co-founders.
Yep.
And you will find some of the most amazing patriots / anons / God-fearing, freedom-loving people in this movement on this board. But there is a bunch of different coffees. If you use the link that I will again put in our chats, that link will give this show credit. However, supporting this show the most would be to buy the Rambo roast. But even if you just went to the website, you would support whoever it is that's on the label of the coffee that you would be purchasing. And there isn't a one person on this board that I don't look up to tremendously.
10% of all sales are going to support the January 6th victims.
Yeah. And I think it's a great way, right? You got all these people on Telegram or bots or whatever trying to crypto scam people, or people just out here begging for support through tips. This is a really good way to get a product for your money, and it supports patriots, right? So I don't think that it's out of line to like this costs a bunch of money. I'm not making anything. That's the truth. But purchasing something with that supports our movement, I think is a good way to vote with your dollar bill, right? It's probably the best way to describe it. Yep. So tons of great people in here.
I don't know what I did to earn the very first spot on the website, but I'll take it.
I know, and look at that. We're right next to, and we're right next to legends, Enoch and Brainstorm. Oh my gosh, Defender of the Public, Sarge, Awakened Outlaw. Brenda has been tremendous in helping me set up my Telegram page and all. Love her. Swampy, Brian Cates, who was in the chat earlier. I don't know if I've seen him lately, but he will be on the show here coming very soon. I'm hoping next week if I can iron out the details. And just nothing but amazing patriots in this project. So please support. I'll drop the link in the chat again as well. So Beer, why don't you take us out if you want to say a prayer, and we'll bounce out of here, and we'll get together again on Monday. First of all, do this, Beer. Tell everybody once again where they can find you first.
Well, if you need to really get a hold of me, there's my email address right underneath my name. Scott, in case you're listening and not watching, it's Scott at magazine, MAGASENE.proton.me. Scott at magazine.proton.me. Please visit our website. If you know of anyone, I'm going to start allowing people to advertise at the magazine because the traffic it's getting is beyond anything we could have ever expected. The site's only been up for 6 weeks. The number of views and we're getting is insane. And so if you know anybody who would like to reach my audience or our audience that might like to maybe buy an ad or sponsor a channel, or in this case, a category, please send them my way. Like Joe, I've been working for free now for 6.5 years. I've burned through all my savings. I'm not begging for money, but I would like to sell some merchandise someday and let people sell their products and services by advertising on my website. And I'm not shy about it. I'm a capitalist. I didn't build this thing to make money. I just built it because I knew it needed a tool. We needed a tool so we would slow down on red pilling and send people to Amaze and let them go do their own thing. That's why I built it. And to be honest, I didn't build this by myself. 8-Track. I'm going to be doing a show with him to talk about my experience and working with him and what a great job he's done for me and my little team. He's been amazing. Absolutely amazing. So anyways, that's how y'all can get a hold of me. On Twitter, I am at Scott Z Patriot on X. And I'm also on Truth as @ScottZimmerman. And then also you can find me and my team everywhere now as @MAGA_scene on all platforms. We're starting to diversify because I'm getting help from both Mary and Tony. She's wonderful. Those two ladies are amazing. So there's my infomercial. I'm done now, and I'd prefer to shut up and pray because then people might like me again.
Well, okay. Well, before you pray, I want to say, so this is what I'm working on today. I've been working on it. I'm just waiting. Well, Monday we're going to live stream the eclipse / alien invasion. Shh, don't tell anybody. And then I have 3 more days that I'm going to be doing shows next week. There may be 4 shows lumped in as we're trying to do a night show as well because one of our guests is from Australia. I can use the handle, right? The BN one.
Yeah, if you're sure it's going to happen, because. Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm teasing. It's definitely going to happen.
Okay.
The goal's next week. It may be the week after. But
well, when you drop the handle, I'll tell you about what that handle did to me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be careful because I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to hurt people. I just want to. My goal is to only help here.
Sure, I know.
So I don't know what I'm.
Well, if that Anon has made a decision to come on a show, even anonymously, he's going to post his handle.
Yes. Okay. So, we're putting a show together that's going to have Smart Paul, JF Nom, 8-Track, myself, and Burn Notice. And I will say no more, but that is legendary.
And I'll tell you why it's legendary. Because when I finally got off my butt and opened a Twitter account, when Q went radio silent and I was bored, I started a Twitter account and I started reading these drops by this account called Burn Notice. And they were so intelligent and they just kept striking me. I finally DM'd that person and I said, I have no clue who you are, but my real name is Scott Zimmerman. Here's my cell phone number, my business email account. I'm supposed to meet you. And that person immediately got back to me and doxed himself. And we have been the besties of besties almost. I mean, we're going 5 years now. He's one of the most intelligent, decent people I have ever met in my life. And this is going to be a treat to be on the same show where he starts speaking publicly.
Well, and let's even generalize it just a little bit more. I have met some of the most amazing patriots from down under.
Yes.
I mean, some of the most amazing patriots.
By and large, they know more about our government, our laws, our Constitution, and our Bill of Rights than we do. And I would always ask them, why do you know our Constitution so well? And they go, because you have it and we need it.
Brilliant minds. I'm telling you, I cannot wait for this thing. So we definitely have Monday's eclipse, which is going to be JF.
And by the way, the reason I'm going to be on that show, where I am in Northeast Ohio, I'm right in the middle of the path. So I'm going to be out there praying for a sunny day, which we get about 4 of in Ohio every year. But I'm praying for a sunny day so I can give you guys a video of what it's like to be in the middle of it.
Yeah, and stay tuned to my Twitter page because that may be much longer than a 1 or 2 hour show. We may sit and hang out for a while.
Oh, it's going to go as long as it goes because it might be more than an eclipse.
Yeah, we might be starting like 9-10 in the morning and just hanging out for maybe
I
4.
blocked out the whole day for you guys. This is going to be once in a lifetime.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then I definitely
and by the way, also make Monday the 8th, make it your own choice to make it a day of prayer. That's the best thing we can do. And thank you, Defender of the Republic, for posting that yesterday. It's a brilliant post. She's one of the best friends I've got in the world, and she's so smart. She got me recentered. What's the best thing I can do on Monday? Just pray.
Well, maybe we'll do that together on the show then.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah. Yep. So then I also have Brian Cates. As soon as IET confirms a time, because he's a doctor during the day, so I'm kind of like doing the rest around him. I'm also talking to Grasshopper. He's going to come on. Pretty stoked about that. And Brian Cates is in line as well. So Brian Cates will be here for a show.
For those of you who don't know who IET is, back in the early Twitter days, this guy was so insightful and popular. He would get like 300,000 followers, and then the deep state would just blow up his account. So he'd come back with a different version of IET like the next day. 4 days later, he'd have 250,000 followers. And then they'd blow him up. You go, okay, well, let's come back in another version. He'd have 250,000 followers and they'd blow him up. Happened, I think, 21 times.
Well, he came on here, Beer, but he came on with Awakened Outlaw and Pepe, as I like doing like legendary roundtables. But that was too many big personalities. So they all deserve their own show.
Right.
So he's coming on and we're going to do a one-on-one. I'm pretty stoked about it, to be honest. Like, talk about legendary. So yeah. So all that stuff's coming up next week, guys. If you could, there's 320 people over on Rumble right now for a brand new platform. That is mighty impressive. Thank you all very, very much for being here. If you could hit that thumbs up, it would do tremendous things for getting the news out there for all the amazing shows we have coming in the future. If you could share the show out, send it to your friends. What Beer did about red pilling was absolutely brilliant. And before we get out of here, let's thank God for being present.
Yeah.
You would, Beer.
My Father, my Savior, my best friend in the world, thank you for the gift of this day. What an amazing day I've had so far, and there's still so much more to come. I can't thank you enough for the amazing people that you've sent in to become friends with me and Mrs. Beer. We talk all the time about the wealth of friendships we're enjoying. It's mind-boggling. It fills my heart to have so many new friends. It fills my heart to know that people all over the world are now connecting, and we're doing it in a God-centered, heartfelt way. Thank you for the removal of all fear and doubt. Thank you for the food you've given me. Thank you for this roof over my head. Thank you for my health. Thank you for the gift of the day. In all things, I choose to be grateful, but I choose to be grateful most for the gift of your Son that you sent to save me. And all these things I pray in Jesus' good name. Amen.
Amen. Amen, sir. Thank you for that. Thank you for being here. This has been
now I got to recompose myself. I've got to interview Alex Newman with tears coming out of my eyes. And
well, where can everybody, if everybody's still free, where can they go watch you? Watch your interview.
Mine are never live. I don't do a show. I just do conversations, and then I post them up on Magazine.
Okay. Well, Magazine's the deal.
His will probably be up later today because his message is so important about the indoctrination of our children in these public school systems. But
I'm
hoping for another day.
I'm hoping maybe I have some free time in the middle of the night tonight while I'm at work, as I have night shift for the next 4 days. I'm hoping to get my paperwork in for Magazine so we can post these shows on there too.
We will be posting your shows. You're one of my favorite, and I'm not just saying that. You're so good at pulling things out of people. You have no idea how much I've stolen from you in my interviewing style. So
I'm okay with that. You kidding me? That's awesome. That's the greatest compliment ever. All right, Beer. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to hit the outro here. We'll do this again. Well, I'll see you Monday. I'll see you Monday morning. We'll talk on back channels. We'll figure out what time we're all getting together, and we will live stream the eclipse.
God bless you, Joe. You're doing his work, and he's very proud of you.
My man. Thanks. You too.
All right. Take care, buddy.
All right, see you. Peace.